Hi all, and welcome to the Week 5 video. I know you all rejoice with me that at the time of this taping, the Duke University men's football team is 2-0. First time since 1998. I say let's call the season done and declare ourselves national champs. Although I'm well aware any Carolina fans out there aren't very impressed by this. Well, be that as it may, we will continue with our exploration of the New Testament. This week I want to talk with you about something I call the justice of Yahweh, the cult of the emperor, and New Testament attitudes towards Rome. One of the most vexing questions in the long history of Judaism is the question of God's justice and how his covenant partner is treated by the other powers in the world. More specifically, why did Yahweh allow the consistent conquest of his chosen people by Gentile powers? If we are the good guys, then why do the bad guys always have the upper hand politically and militarily? We at least try to be faithful. It seems to be of no avail in this world. Judaism, dating back to the time when Babylon was the regional bully boy, had long suffered at the hands of whatever the local regional power happened to be. With the exception of the David-Solomon era, Israel was usually at the mercy of a long line of conquerors, with Rome being the latest to have her heavy hand on the nation of David. Psalm 44, although written at the time of Nebuchadnezzar, of Babylon's destruction of the temple, had a deep meaning for Jews laboring under the yoke of Roman oppression. Because of thee, we are done to death all day long, and are treated as sheep for slaughter. I think it puts it pretty bluntly. A similar sentiment is expressed in the non-canonical book of 2nd Esdras, written about 30 years after the Roman general Titan destroys the temple in 70 of the Common Era as part of the ending of the first Jewish revolt against Rome. My heart sank because I saw how you, God, tolerate sinners and spare the godless, how you have destroyed your own people but protected your enemies. You have given no hint whatever to anyone how to understand your ways. Is Rome more virtuous than Zion? Has any nation except Israel ever known you? What tribes have you put trust in your covenants as the tribes of Jacob have? Has any nation ever kept your commandments like Israel? 2nd Esdras 30:32 and verse 36. What are the Roman religious concerns at work in this time that influenced the development of the New Testament? For our purposes, we must give some thought to the rise in the ancient world of the practice of emperor worship, the cult of the emperor. The origins of this practice predate Rome, with the rise of Alexander the Great. Alexander was hailed by the priest of the Egyptian temple at Siwa as the son of Amun-Ra, the chief god of the Egyptian pantheon. This happened not long after Alexander had been proclaimed king of Egypt. The designation of being the son of divinity was one long given to the kings of Egypt, and in this situation it had an even more widespread influence. As ruler of the first truly worldwide empire, Alexander came to be worshipped as a god throughout much of his empire. The temple at Siwa was well known throughout the ancient world, and it seems the Greeks of Alexander's empire took this proclamation quite literally. Alexander used this belief as a tool for unifying his vast and culturally diverse empire. The emperor was the one key thing the people. Let me try that again. The emperor was the one thing the peoples of the empire had in common. His successors, especially the Ptolemaic and Seleucid dynasties, carried on this tradition. By the 4th century BCE, the legendary founder of Rome, Romulus, had been granted posthumous divinity by the Roman Senate, and after the assassination of Julius Caesar, the Senate afforded him the same honors. His adopted son Octavius, the future Emperor Augustus, was known by the Latin term Divi Filius, Son of God. And upon his death in 14 CE, the Senate proclaimed Augustus a deity in his own right. Succeeding emperors, even the worst such as Caligula, were also accorded such honors, with superlatives used to describe their reigns. About Caligula it was said, quote unquote, all people had hoped and prayed for his reign, because it meant, quote unquote, the happiest age for mankind had now arrived. Now, a lot of things can be said about the reign of Caligula. Happiest age for mankind is not one of them. Most important for New Testament study is the use of the term by Paulus Fabius to promote the imperial cult, the Greek term Evangelia, the plural of good news. This is the same term used by Paul and the Gospel writers to proclaim Jesus. When the author of Luke has the angels tell the shepherds he has good news for them, he is appropriating the same term used to describe news about the emperor. This is found in Luke 2:8, verses 8 through 14. And in Acts 17:7 through 8, the same author writes that Christians will be viewed as rejecting the emperor in favor of Jesus. Refusal to participate in the emperor cult eventually brought state-sanctioned persecution down upon Christians, forced to choose between rival kings. So, what does all this mean for the attitudes toward Rome expressed by the various New Testament writers? Well, to put it briefly, a great deal. Taken as a whole, the attitudes of the New Testament towards Rome are a very mixed bag, and no one attitude can be said to speak for the whole of the New Testament. The Gospel of Mark, written at or soon after the time of the first Jewish revolt and its bitter consequences, shows a profound dislike of Rome. This view is best represented in the story of the Gerasene demoniac. When confronted by Jesus about his name, the unclean spirits respond that their name is quote unquote legion, a term also used to designate the standard unit of Roman military organization. Mark also contains the commandment to pay Caesar his due and God his, a directive that affirms the primary allegiance of Judaism to Yahweh, not Rome. And the teaching of Jesus about the kingdom of God, a central theme in the Gospel of Mark, can be taken as a criticism of Rome. See Mark 5, chapter 5, verses 1 through 13, and Mark 12, verse 17. But in other places, the New Testament writers exercise more tact when referring to the Roman occupation. For example, Roman soldiers are often portrayed positively in the Gospels. In Luke 7, 1 through 10, and Matthew 8, 5 through 13, there's the story of a Roman centurion asking Jesus to heal a favorite servant. Jesus comments favorably on the faith of the centurion, saying that not even in Israel have I found such faith. In Luke 13:47 and Mark 15:39, there's a positive comment regarding Jesus as placed on the lips of the centurion presiding over the crucifixion of Jesus. This anticipates the development of Christianity. The proclamation of the gospel that spreads throughout the Roman world finds a much more receptive audience among Gentiles than among Jews. Thus we have New Testament writers urging a degree of accommodation with Roman authorities. In Romans 13, Paul instructs the church at Rome to submit to Roman law and institutions. The author of Luke and Acts emphasized that Christianity is a law-abiding religion and a loyal religion that does not act against the Roman Empire. Now, a notable exception to the idea of working with Rome is the book of Revelation, where Rome is referred to as a harlot, whose power comes from Satan and will eventually be thrown down. This can be found in Revelation chapter 17 through 18. The author of Luke Acts is well aware that the Christian understanding of the risen Jesus as the highest of all kings could be interpreted as being an anti-Roman message. Again, see Acts 17, verses 8 through 9. To Romans, claims of the kingship of Jesus could appear seditious, an attempt to undercut the authority of the empire. How could people who pledged allegiance to a man crucified for treason be loyal to the person of the emperor? Food for thought. That's it for this week. Have a good one.